box where one size fits all. Isn't that a good feeling? Isn't it good to know that I don't fit inside of a box, that I am unique? And so in our uniqueness, I say welcome to our virtual joining us this morning. Welcome home to the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, where we create the box. We don't fit inside of one box. We create the box that we live in as expressions of the divine. You know, I went to the calendar yesterday to see when was the beginning of spring. When was the first day of spring? And guess what? It's today. Today is the beginning of spring. And so I was inspired to bring some flowers this morning for our sanctuary. I love to have fresh flowers in my living space, but I'm shifting a little bit, just a little bit, to into this new role of a plant dad, if you will. I have green plants that have been going through various stages of droopiness, or there's an odor that comes from them when I water them. And I guess I'm like most people, I tend to overwater rather than underwater, or do the appropriate amount. And so I took the plants into a local plant store, and they assisted me with them, repotted a number of them, and showed me how to propagate those that are going on. So my living space is becoming a little bit more green. And so I decided, okay, Spirit said, bring some color to the center. And so I picked up the nice bouquet, the multiple varieties that you see here before us. And then yesterday in our visioning, it just shows you how the one mind always working together. In our visioning yesterday, someone reminded us that the sunflower is the national flower of Ukraine. And so I said, let's incorporate that into the bouquet, acknowledging that there is no distinction, there is no separation between us and our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. And I did a little research on the sunflower that I'd like to share with you. Sunflowers actually have been grown in the Ukraine since the early 1700s. So it's not a new phenomenon. Sunflower oil became an important aspect of daily life in the country because the church did not ban it during Lent. Since then, it has become a staple in Ukrainian households and became the Ukrainian national flower. The sunflower itself comprises about 70 species of annual perennial flowering plants in the daisy family. So show you how Spirit operates in its creativity through nature. Here's this one plant that is a representative of at least 70 different species. And think of that in our unique expressions in human form of how many individuals there are on this planet. Several years ago, Mark Nepo wrote a book, and the title is 7,000 Languages is part of the title. I've forgotten the full title now. But at that time, there were more than 7,000 known languages on the planet. And that doesn't take into account the unknown. So this shows you the multiplicity of the one that is operating in all of our lives. The name sunflower comes from the Greek helios, which means sun, and athos, which means flower. And the sunflower got its name because the flower turns toward the sun. And so that is an invitation to us to turn our attention towards the inner sun, towards that light that is never dimmed within our experiences. Thich Nhat Hanh offers this for us. We humans have lost the wisdom of generosity, of genuinely, begin again. We humans have lost the wisdom of genuine resting and relaxing. We worry too much. We don't allow our bodies to heal, and we don't allow our minds to heal and our hearts to heal. And so this leads us into our topic for today, I'll rest when I'm dead. From a science of mind perspective, Ernest Holmes offers this in our Declaration of Principles. We believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. And so by living in close contact with the indwelling God, this requires us to listen to our intuition and to listen to the still small voice of the one within. To do so requires silence, quiet, and rest. Regular, substantial periods of rest, allowing us the time to listen within and to connect with our individual and mystical truth. You know, Spirit has a funny way of providing downloads for me. A couple of days ago, I was making up the bed, and Spirit said, living a spiritual life is an inside job. Living a spiritual life is an inside job. And when we look in the world of effect, especially more in the financial area, where there's insider information that is revealed that could result in an unfair financial gain for someone, it kind of has a bad rep. In any type of insider information that is leaked, you know, and some organizations require confidentiality statements so that the business practices of that organization are not revealed to another organization, or if an employee leaves that particular company or firm, they make a commitment not to reveal the inside operation. So when someone leaks inside information, it kind of gives them a bad rep. But if we look at it from the spiritual area, from the spiritual aspect, living a spiritual life is inside work. All of our focus is on our inner well-being and inner development and growth. And so this leads us to a case for rest. Rest is needed for the body. It is valuable for the quality of life and essential for the soul. You know, in our Western culture, we tend to focus away from rest by saying, we don't have time to waste. We need to hustle. We need to catch up. We need to get ahead. We need to do the most that we can. We need to earn the most money that we can. And we're trying to encounter this false belief in lack. However, a call for regular sustained periods of rest is included within most spiritual and faith-based traditions. In the corporate arena, researchers tell us that rest makes us more productive. Our medical doctors, medical professions tell us that rest reduces stress and allows the body to heal. Artists tell us that rest allows us to connect with our inner creativity, that inside job, and enhances our problem-solving capacities. Extended periods of rest give us time to dig into the delight and wonder of life. Deep, lingering talks with good friends, sweet periods of meditation and self-reflection, time to be still and listen. It brings a balance and recharges us for the next period of activity. And so we ask the question, why do we run from rest? There's no question that we could all use more rest, and yet we resist it. Ernest Holmes offers this in the book, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. To enter the silence, to quiet our minds, and to enter the space of non-movement. To be still and know that I am God is to enter the sanctuary of one's own consciousness. In the frenzy, we can hide from our feelings. We become too busy to heal damaged relationships or have difficult conversations or devote time to enough energy for self-reflection that will move us forward in a real way. And I share a recent experience with you of being in a situation where an awkward conversation came forward, a difficult conversation came forward related to unconscious bias and implicit bias. And of course, it was a small period of time that we were together, and in the busyness, the schedules that we're following, we needed to rush through, or not necessarily rush through, but there wasn't time for a lingering and extended conversation. But what occurred in that conversation, there were individuals there who were familiar with our Center for Spiritual Living here in Monterey. And in that conversation, one of the former ministers of our center was referred to as that Black woman, rather than actually naming the individual. And I can even feel the energy charge right now as I recall that. There was a energy within me that, that just really wanted to lash out and shake the person and said, get into the 21st century. We put labels on cans, we don't put labels on people. I didn't go there. I maintained my calm. Let me breathe and get back into that space. And in that encounter, I made a comment about racial stereotyping in another part of the conversation. And another individual looked at me and said, I didn't realize you were African American. Again, an unconscious assumption based on an appearance. Due to our mutual busyness, time didn't allow for engagement around the idea and the conversation of implicit and unconscious bias. But I want to take a few moments to unpack that for us this morning, because I believe it's an important part of our conversation for our spiritual living, for living in congruency with one another. Just as I did the demonstration of the nature with the plants and more than 70 varieties of sunflowers that come from one plant and the integration of life. Research informs us that research in human behavior informs us that implicit bias is an unconscious association, belief, or an attitude towards a social group. In psychology, an attitude refers to a set of emotions, beliefs, and behaviors toward a particular object, person, thing, or event. Attitudes are most often the result of an experience of upbringing that can have a powerful influence over our behavior. While attitudes are enduring, they can also change. Due to implicit bias, people are often attributed certain qualities or characteristics of all members of a particular group, a phenomenon known as stereotyping. And this is research that comes out of the Organizational and Behavior Research Group that was done in, I don't have the year noted, but this is scientific-based evidence. It is important to remember that implicit bias operates almost entirely on unconscious and unconscious level. Implicit bias operates on an unconscious level, while explicit bias and prejudices are intentional and controllable. Implicit bias is less so. Implicit bias is unconscious. It becomes pretty much a way of life if we're not attuned to it. And so in our case for rest, in rest, we can truly see ourselves. And sometimes we avoid rest because we're not ready to deal with what is in there. We're running away from our own selves. We're running away from our own biases. We're running away from our own hidden beliefs and our own false beliefs. One of the hardest lessons in life is letting go of our long-held, unexamined beliefs. But I say to you this morning It's time to move beyond good intentions and to engage in the key teachings of science of mind. And that is to take responsibility for our own lives and our own actions. And one of the ways we do this is by resting in the one. Our theme for this year at our Centers for Living is living in everyday wonder. And there's nothing more wonderful than resting in the one spirit, the one source, through powerful spiritual practice. Ernest Holmes wrote, "Spiritual experience comes in the stillness of the soul, when the outer voice is quiet. It's a quickening of the inner being to an external reality. This quickening is the doorway to the mystical experience, to the cosmic conversation that shows us the truth that we're all one, that all is God, and that all is love." This isn't something that can be taught. It can only be discovered through the path of sacred stillness and sustained rest. In this recognition, we're invited by the indwelling spirit to become a revealer of truth, which appears as our intuition, as sacred knowingness, and as a deep yes to all that is good. It brings us the peace that passes all understanding, and it empowers us to be a beneficial presence for all whom we meet. And so in summary, as we wrap this up, being mindful of falling into the temptation to glorify overwork and busyness, saying things like, "I'll rest when I'm dead." If we wait to rest until we're dead, then we lose our effectiveness as expressions of the divine here in this experience. One of the great wonders of this life is the sweet sense of joy and peace that comes from real extended rest. Within rest, we interact with the quality and the quietness of the play of spirit that add depth and substance to our spiritual practices. As we let go of responding to the 911 call for constant motion and overwork, we open the door to the mystical presence in our lives. It's our call to action and our personal application for this week, and I've asked our tech team to place these in the comments on our Zoom page, in the chat on our Zoom page, and in the comments section on our Facebook page. And I invite you to save these. This week, with the sacred wonder of peace in your heart, explore and maybe ask the question, how can I sink into the bliss of sustained rest? Schedule it and hold it sacred. Nothing can be more important, and you are worth it. Schedule a day off in the next 2 weeks. Resist the urge to fill it with appointments, fun or not. Give yourself vast swaths of unscheduled time. And I'm going to put this into practice next week. I will not be with you on next Sunday. I am taking the following week off as vacation. And we have a dynamic guest speaker that is going to be with us, Brother Lucian Baker, a religious science practitioner, who is also one of our next gen ministerial students. And Next Gen is a group of individuals that are around 40-ish and under, who are being nurtured and supported through not only spiritually nurtured, but also financially nurtured through the ministerial training. So there's a new crop, a new youth group that is coming through as leaders. And I know you will enjoy Lucian's presence with us. So I will be taking some time off, and I will schedule I've made a commitment to myself to schedule no activity for at least 2 days during that week. I have some things that I need to take care of. But I'm going to practice giving myself that time of rest. And so I invite us now to join our weekly affirmation, join in saying our weekly affirmation, which is, I rest in divine joy. I rest in divine joy. And now let us take this opportunity to pray together. And so as we move into that quiet space of our own beingness, that secret dwelling place of the Most High, I know that there is only one life. There's only one power. There's only one presence. There is only one source for good, and that is in this world. And that is what I call God. Recognizing that it is known by many names and that it is followed by many paths. And yet there is a one source that connects and holds everything in absolute perfect harmony. Being one with this harmony, being one with every aspect of life, I affirm it as my truth, and I affirm it as the truth for all who are a part of this spiritual gathering, this spiritual conversation that is taking place right here, right now, in this present moment. Recognizing the oneness of all life, I speak my word of blessing for our entire planet, those places where there are unrest. Right now, the focus is on Ukraine and the devastation that is taking place in that country. And so we not only lift the people of Ukraine into our hearts and into our prayers and support those organizations that are providing much needed resources to allow them to sustain life, knowing that peace prevails and that peace begins within my heart. A songwriter once wrote the words that says, when there is peace in my heart, there will be peace in the world. So I am not only declaring peace in my heart, I am declaring peace in the hearts of all people, especially our world leaders. You know, moving away from the facade, letting go of that facade, seeing beyond the appearance of the bully, seeing beyond the appearance of the strong man, seeing beyond the appearance of grabbing for power, or whatever else there is that is camouflaging the true essence of the individual. This is our call as practitioners of the science of mind, as practitioners of the teachings of spiritual truths, to see beyond the appearance and to see the pure essence, to see the wounds that have taken place and have covered up the magnificence of the individual, and to, in our prayers, lift and heal those wounds. Bring about what the scripture calls that balm in Gilead that heals the soul. Moving into this place of peace and living together as one body, living in harmony. This is the vision that I hold this morning. This is the vision that I invite each one to share with me. Declaring peace and harmony among our own individual families, our interconnections with one another, our relationships with one another, be they casual, be they social, be they romantic, however those manifestations in those relationships form. Underlying all of that is the mantra, let there be peace in my heart. When there is peace in my mind, there is peace in the world. When there is peace in my mind, there is peace in the world. Giving thanks and gratitude for the way that transitions show up in our lives. Those transitions may not feel comfortable in the moment, especially the transition of a loved one from this plane of expression into the next greater life to be. The transition in the form of housing, moving from a place of shelter to a place of not being sheltered. Regardless of the reason, knowing that within that experience, there is peace. There is that inner joy, there's that inner knowing that God provides. Where God guides, God provides. And so I open my heart to the guidance of spirit. And I do this through my spiritual practices. And I include play and laughter and rest and fun and joy as part of those spiritual practices. Blessing communities that are gathering in the name of the One. Again, knowing that there are many paths that lead to the one source of all that there is. And for this and so much more, I am eternally grateful. And I release this word now back into the law, that law which always says yes, allowing it to be so. And I invite you to affirm this with me as we say together, and so it is. And I take this up always to remind you and to thank you for supporting the work of the ministers and the practitioners, allowing us to be available to be with you in prayer support. And as I often remind people, as practitioners, and even though many of us have gone on to become licensed ministers, we're still practitioners. Our practitioner license is maintained as part of our minister license. And so we invite you to come and share with us the joy of life as well as the sorrows of life. We like to celebrate the joyful experiences and pray for more of those to come, more of those to be revealed. And as an expression of gratitude for the way that you also support the spiritual community through your tithes, your offerings, through your time and your talent, we say thank you. This is an opportunity now for us to participate in gracious giving, in the sharing of our abundance. We have an abundance statement that we will share together. Our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the uninterrupted flow of abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so we remind you on our screen, for those in our virtual community, there are ways to support the Monterey Center through mailing in your donations to the center, and our address is on the screen. Also, you may donate through our secure website, and you may text to give also. And we're exploring other platforms to make it easy for individuals to continue to contribute and support our community. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your generosity. And for our Facebook community and for those who will be viewing this on YouTube, we invite you to come back next week. We will be concluding our March theme, which is play, and the message is happy together. Happy together. What an uplifting experience that shall be, that we're happy together, and that's something we can practice now. And so we say to our virtual community and Facebook, we appreciate you. We thank you. We thank God for your presence in our lives. You're a part of our family. And whenever you're in the Monterey area, you're welcome to stop by and visit with us in person. So thank you and good morning to our Facebook and YouTube communities.